What's going on, guys? This is the Club the Man 1993 coming at you for another retro review in my WrestleMania review series. We are now on WrestleMania 15, which took place on March 28th, 1999, the last WrestleMania before the 2000s, and one of the last WrestleManias also under the World Wrestling Federation. At least WrestleMania 17 was the last one before WrestleMania 18 and up is under WWE. So we'll see that change happen in a few years. It took place again March 28th, 1999, at the First Union Center in Philadelphia. 1999 was still considered a good year for the World Wrestling Federation or all wrestling companies in general, WCW, ECW, and whatnot. In terms of, entertainment, the segments, the angles and stuff, the stories were good. Match quality, though, wasn't quite there. I mean, there were some good matches, but there wasn't any, classics that we could take home from this. And that's what kind of affected my grade a little bit for WrestleMania 15. There were some good matches, some average matches, and a couple bad matches. So we'll get into this and talk about it. It was still, this pay-per-view I think was a little under 3 hours, but I do think going forward soon we do start getting the longer WrestleManias, like 3.5 hours, 4 hours, eventually getting the 5 hours as we had the past two, but we won't talk about those yet. So let's get right into WrestleMania 15. I'm just going to breeze through these. There really isn't too much in this story involving for most of these matches. I mean, this was around the time where Vince McMahon started up his little corporation. And he pretty much just, just handpicking people who he wants to see be the successful ones. There was some people who joined the corporation, some people who left the corporation and whatnot. But we'll talk about that throughout this video. First, we had the World Federation Hardcore Championship. It was the first WrestleMania where the Hardcore Championship was defended. It was badass Billy Gunn, the champion, taking on Hardcore Holly and Al Snow. This was during a time where New Age Outlaws, weren't, done with each other, but they just wanted to see if they can do a single stars. I think Road Dogg did have the Hardcore Championship briefly, but in this WrestleMania, he's the Intercontinental Champion. But Billy Gunn's a champion, but he has some issues with Hardcore Holly and Al Snow. They both wanted shots at the championship. The match was decent. It wasn't anything too spectacular, but Hardcore Holly did go on winning this match. A couple good weapon shots using there as well. Hardcore Holly, though, wins this match, and he becomes the new Hardcore Champion. We then have the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Championship match. It was the champions Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett with, at that time, Stone Cold Steve Austin's wife, Deborah, now ex-wife, taking on a team of Test and D'Lo Brown with Ivory. This match was acceptable and satisfying. I don't know, these two teams didn't really, mesh well together. The part that was probably the most entertaining that the crowd popped for was the moment where Deborah and Ivory teased a cat fight. That was actually interesting, but everything else kind of just happened. Wasn't really that amazing of a match. But the Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart do win and retain the titles. However, though, speaking of 1999, as I mentioned a few times, this was the year that Owen Hart died after he was doing his entrance as the Blue Blazer, coming in from the roof. I guess one of his supports or whatever snapped, and he fell into the ring, and he died instantly. I can't remember if it was instantly or if he just died, slowly. But this was the last WrestleMania for Owen Hart, so rest easy, Owen. I mean, I enjoyed the matches I've seen him in. He had a match with Triple H for the European Championship. He also had a match against his brother Bret. Was probably his best match, the opener for WrestleMania 10, as we all know. So this is unfortunately the last time we'll hear about Owen Hart. Of course, the Harts in general, since Bret, well, actually, no, I'm sorry. We do have Bret again later down the line, but we'll get to that much later. But yeah, I just wanted to leave that out there as well. Oh boy, now we have the Brawl for All, the finals for the Brawl for All. So, for what I can get out of this is the Brawl for All was a boxing tournament held in the World Wrestling Federation. This is around the time also where Vince Russo was on the writing team, and I've heard that he tried to write some ridiculous ideas there's another match on this card that just had something weird to it, but he just tried some goofy things to me. At the time, him and Vince McMahon were at the highest peaks of their careers. They were successful, and actually, writing some good storylines and angles since they had a lot of competition from WCW and ECW. But there were some things that, didn't always quite pan out to be great. And that's the Brawl for All. Trying to make, a choreographed wrestling show into a boxing match just wasn't working out. That's why the match between Mr. T and, was it Piper back at WrestleMania 2? I think that was that 10-round boxing match didn't work out too well. And it didn't work out either because it was just, the idea of, a choreographed show and, real boxing to work out. I forgot who was supposed to be the one who was supposed to win the tournament, but then those plans fell apart after Bart Gunn, I think it was, knocked the guy out. But then Bart Gunn would go on to be in this finals match. It was nothing really spectacular at all against Butterbean, and Butterbean won after knocking out Bart Gunn, which was the way you're supposed to win, by knocking out. But, Bart Gunn accidentally knocked out the guy who they were intending to put over, and I can't remember who this guy's name, but I did hear that he did not go on to have a good career because of this. So this is a huge mistake by the WWF at the time, and it didn't really go over too well here at WrestleMania 15. But Butterbean won, whatever. Then we had this match. So in the corporation, Big Show had joined the corporation, and with Vince McMahon, wanting to keep his corporation the way he wanted to. This big thing was, keep The Rock as champion, especially all since he was taking on McMahon's big rival, Stone Cold Steve Austin. So he wanted to appoint an official. So there was also Mankind, Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, whatever you want to call him. He had taken a lot of bumps over the past year. He went through the cell against Taker. He had, he'd been through some scary moments. But he showed that the guy's tough as nails, as he also has gotten into this feud with Big Show, or he's still called by his real life name, Paul White, around this time. So they make a match between these two, and the winner would officiate the match against Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock for the championship at this WrestleMania. Match was alright, wasn't anything spectacular, but the match ended with the Big Show choke slamming Foley through 2 chairs. It caused disqualification, meaning that Foley was supposed to referee, but he was hurt. However, Vince came out what I did like about the show also was you could hear what was being said in the ring also. I think at times when you get to hear that, that's like a little bit of a special treat. And he gets in there and he starts, yelling at Big Show because, he knows that his plan's not going good. He's like, I'm Vince McMahon, damn it, I can do this, whatever to you. And then Big Show did attack Vince, laying him out with a right hand. And then Vince ordered him to be arrested. So Big Show was arrested, taken out of the building, so that plan didn't work. But Foley was even being sent to the hospital. So we don't think we're going to see him for the rest of the night, but we'll see what happens later. Because of this happening, though, Vince McMahon said he wanted to make himself the special guest referee. But that all changed later on. We'll get to that, though, later. But yeah, so Mankind wins by disqualification, but even then we're going to be the referee. We then had the World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Championship match, but it was a fatal 4-way elimination tag. Weird stipulation, but it was the Road Dogg, Jesse James taking on Goldust, Val Venus, and Ken Shamrock. And the match stipulation was just weird. Road Dogg did retain a championship, though, with a roll-up on Goldust. But I think I heard rumors that Goldust did win the title next night on Raw, which also heard in 1999, despite being a year that was, good storylines, not really classic matches, but good matches still. It was also a year of a lot of championships going back and forth. So, we'll whatever. But I mean, it's kind of not always a good thing. But this match was decent for the Intercontinental title, but it was just still kind of weird. I couldn't really quite follow on the stipulation. And then before the next match was supposed to be Triple H taking on Kane. Kane was attacked by a man in a chicken suit, which turned out to be Pete Rose. And, he had trashed on Boston the year before, and Kane came out and tombstone Pete Rose at WrestleMania 14. Well, let's do the same thing. So, in the chicken suit, Pete Rose gets tombstone. It was to the WWE Hall of Fame. He can get into the WWE Hall of Fame, but not the MLB Hall of Fame. He did a lot more for Major League Baseball, despite the fact his gambling issues kept him out of the Hall of Fame, unfortunately. But he was still a good player. I gotta give him respect for that. But him in the WWE Hall of Fame just for getting tombstone by Kane a couple times. Come on, especially in a chicken suit. But then he had a match against Triple H. Now this was a time where again Triple H was, just taking over DX. Because Shawn Michaels was out with a back injury, but he was made commissioner as well. This is during Shawn Michaels' 4-year hiatus from the ring. So Triple H taking over. However, China did turn on Triple H a few months before WrestleMania, joined the corporation, and then she had been siding with Kane, and of course but then right before their match at WrestleMania, I guess they're like firing shots at each other with those fireball things or whatever, and one of them hit China, so Kane took out China backstage. And so this match pretty much just, okay, you took China away from me, whatnot. So that's what the match was. The match was kind of slow, a little boring. Wasn't terrible, but it could have been better between these two. It just didn't really mix well together. The interesting part was that towards the end of the match, China came out. And it looked like she was going to, attack Triple H with a steel chair and side with Kane. But then she attacked Kane with the chair. Turning on Kane, pretty much just turning back to DX, just beating him down. Kane wins by disqualification, and then Triple H and China reunite. Okay, we'll talk about them a little bit later on. Also, this is not the last time we see them, but the match again was kind of boring, nothing really too crazy. But it is what it was. And then speaking of terrible, we got a couple more bad matches to talk about here. The next one was for the World Wrestling Federation Women's Championship. Sable, the champion, taking on Tori. Now, last year, I really praised Sable as this was the year where last year was the year where she really became a star. But this year they have her turn heel, which I think most of her run was as a heel, and her becoming a fool of herself, being on Playboy and all that stuff. Which okay, that's fine. But then they have her taking on Tori. Tori did not seem like she was that well established in the ring yet. The match was kind of boring. Sable did all she could in this match. She retained the title, but it wasn't really one of the best matches. Like last year's mixed tag match, I believe it was Mark Miro or whatever the heck his name was. Sable taking on a team of Luna and Goldust. That was good. That was good showing from Sable. But this right here, not really. But I'm sure we will get some better women's matches down the line. But this one did not take the cake. We did get a good match though for the WWF European Championship. It was Shane McMahon, the champion. In first WrestleMania, we see Shane taking on X-Pac. The match was a fun match. These guys, with their styles they have really meshed well with each other. Felt good to see also Shane appear for the first time watching the WrestleMania review series as a heel. Of course, taking part with his father's corporation. I know eventually they do turn. I can't remember if it was WrestleMania 20 or 21. They have a match against each other. But eventually, Shane. I think Shane does buy out WCW at one point. To get more interesting competition in the storyline between WWE and WCW and ECW, of course, as well. Paul Heyman's baby. But the match between him and X-Pac was fun. I hear that, X-Pac was an awesome babyface, but I think they eventually did turn him heel, and I heard he didn't really have a good run as a heel. Kind of derail his career a little bit. But the moment this had, the match between him and Shane was definitely a high note of his career. Shane McMahon, though, won the match thanks to an assist from a surprise. So, as we said, talked about shortly before, China turned on Triple H and sided with Kane. But then China turned on Triple H because that was also when China joined the corporation. China turned on Kane at their match. And then this match, DX comes out seemingly trying to save X-Pac. But then Triple H turns on X-Pac. This was the heel turn that made Triple H into, the player he is today, the game. Triple H turned on X-Pac and, gave the win. But then after the match, Triple H, they started to beat down X-Pac. And then the New Age Outlaws, Jesse James and Billy Gunn, again, they weren't, hating on each other. They just wanted to see what they could do with single stars. They came out and scared off Triple H. But Triple H, joins a corporation now. So what a turn of events we really had. First it was just China joined a corporation and then signing with Kane to now gain Triple H on the side as well. So part of DX, part of the corporation. So we'll see where it goes from there as we get into WrestleMania. Not 20, 16. I'm not saying 20. I'm thinking of next year's WrestleMania 2000 or whatever. But we got that. So, the match was good, and an interesting turn of events as well. Speaking of bad, though, we got to get to this match. The Hell in a Cell match. The Undertaker versus Big Boss Man. I got to say, again, I was not watching wrestling back this time. I've never watched any Raws or anything around this time yet. But this match was bad. This was a Hell in a Cell match that was it was boring. It was slow. The cage was barely used. Any weapons were barely used. The Undertaker won the match, of course. I believe this is streak match number 8 or 9, I think. I can't remember exactly which one it was. I lost track at this point. It's been a couple days ever be WrestleMania. But either way, this was not, Taker was a lot better in the ring at this point than he had been earlier in his career, some of the matches he had, but this match just didn't really, capitalize on it being, a big time, brutal Hell in a Cell match. After the match, though, Edge Christian, I can't remember who the other guy's name was, floated from the top onto the top of the cell, put a rope in there, and they hung Big Boss Man, but then just cut away like it was no big deal. It's like, whoa, you're talking about something else, but there's a man in the ring being hung. That didn't make any sense. I didn't really like the fact that they had to hang Big Boss Man like that. I thought that was pushing a little too far. I know it was, not the PG era at the time, but I'm like, okay, that's a tad bit too far, I felt. Horrible match. Definitely the lowest point of the show. Moving on. We had the main event, a no disqualification match for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. Now, the special guest referee was supposed to be Vince McMahon. Because, Big Show didn't win the match. Big Show was arrested. Mankind won the match by disqualification, but he was hurt and he was in the hospital. So Vince is like, okay, you know what? I'll be the special guest referee. He comes out, but then out would come the commissioner, Shawn Michaels. HBK, again, who's out with a back injury. He comes out and says, you can't make the officials, but the commissioner can, so get out of here right now before I lay you flat on your face, Vince. Which I believe could, help be a reason why, HBK and Vince do have a feud. I think in 2005 or 6, I think they had a feud together. So, Shawn eventually makes his way back to WWE. So I'm sure this could, involve their storyline somehow as well. But so Vince leaves him. Well, he's not. He comes out to the ring later on during the match, but he's not the official, as they bring just a regular referee for this match against Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. The match was good. I don't want to rate this one the best one or not, because I still haven't seen their other two matches. At WrestleMania 17 and I think 19, I think was the other one. But this match was still a really good match. Just kind of setting the table for the better matches yet to come between these two. The stakes were set against Austin. People were coming by trying to, help The Rock win and whatnot, but it wasn't working. And then Vince tried getting involved too, because, it was probably at the time also where Stone Cold and Vince were in their feud as well. But then to a surprise, Mankind returned. He must have checked himself out of the hospital or whatnot, but he returned and he got in there, and instead of, Stone Cold getting screwed over, Stone Cold won the match. And I gotta say also, The Rock also was epic, really selling the stunner. He got hit with 2 stunners, and every time he would get hit with a stunner, he would flop around, showing off how deadly that stunner was. But again, the match is still good. Stone Cold Steve Austin won the match and is your new World Wrestling Federation champion. Again, good match. I'm not going to say it's their best one yet, but I'm sure it might not be their best one. I keep hearing WrestleMania 17 was their best match, but I'll be the judge. We'll see what happens when we get onto there. But that is it for WrestleMania 15, guys. We'll back and forth what grade I want to give it. Most of the matches were average, a couple good matches, but we did have a couple bad matches on this show. Let me see. I hate to really go down this slow, but I think I'm going to give this WrestleMania a C-. That's my grade for this WrestleMania, C-. It was okay. It was just really back and forth. Stories were good, but the matches weren't really that exciting as well. So, if anything, at least watch this one just for the first of the Austin and McMahon match, and also the European Championship match. European title match between X-Pac and Shane McMahon. That's a good match as well. That's my thoughts on WrestleMania 15. Again, I give it a C-. What are your thoughts on WrestleMania 15? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Please make sure to click that like and subscribe before going on. Wow, I talked way too fast there. Please make sure to click that like and subscribe button for more content to come to this channel, as well as follow me on Twitter at TheManAirboy93, and I'll see you in my next Retro WrestleMania review, which will be WrestleMania 16. We're now into the 2000s. We have 2 more WrestleManias left until we transfer from the WWF to the WWE. Until then, guys, have a great night.